Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this, interview. I was interviewed on Joel Goldberg's podcast, and I absolutely adored this interview and spending time with him. He asked some questions that I've never been asked before, and I just had so much fun, and there's so much value in it. So I am super pumped to be able to share this with you today. So that's thing number one. I'm excited to dive into that. Thing number two, before we jump in, is did you know that I have a free Pinterest training available that you can jump into like right now? So Pinterest is one of the things that I love teaching. I used Pinterest to get over 20,000 leads into my business for free. Using my Pinterest strategy, some of our students have tripled their sales in 60 days. It's pretty wild. And I have a free training that's going to help you do that. So just go to freepinterestclass.com to go and check that out. All right, let's dive into this episode with Joel. Welcome to the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. I'm an entrepreneur, mom, adventure lover, and creator of Pin with Purpose, the Impact Blogging Academy, and Activate. I went from food stamps and negative $400 in my checking account to a multiple six-figure online business. This is your show to learn from me and other rockstar entrepreneurs how to monetize your passion and live out your purpose. If you're ready to increase your income while making a massive impact on the world, this is the show for you. I'm so pumped you're here. Let's get started.
Welcome into Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist. My name's Joel Goldberg, and you can reach me at joelgoldbergmedia.com. As many of you may know, I love to tell stories. I'm a storyteller, and my guest today is perfect for this episode. Her name is Rachel Ngom, Ngom. Most people mispronounce it. I spent a little bit of time trying to make sure that I got it right. And so we certainly talked about her background, and I began by asking Rachel about her worldly travels.
Been really blessed. When I was 20, I got to move to Kenya, lived there for 6 months. Then I lived in Senegal for 6 months in between college and grad school. That's where I met my husband. Brought him back to America so I could get my master's in social work. We moved to Florida. We were there for 5 years. And then I was sick of being in one spot. My husband got a job in France, so we moved there for 2 years. That's where I started this business. We moved to America about a year ago, but I'm already getting a little stir crazy, and we'll be going to Senegal sometime next year.
It's truly amazing, and that's just a small piece. Sometimes I ask my guests that are involved in so many different things, how they would describe themselves and their job, because I think that, and I've heard you on different podcasts and telling your story, and I guess it would be simple to say, hey, someone that was almost down and out and no money, and they find something, and not only do they make it, but they then help others make it. I mean, you go from no money in the bank account to suddenly, 6 figures and coaching others to do that. I'm guessing that's about the simplest way to put it, but how do you describe yourself and what you do, Rachel?
So I work with purpose-driven entrepreneurs to help them get more leads and sales into their business through Pinterest, blogging, lead generation, smart stuff. And specifically, I work with a lot of moms, but busy people that want to work less and make a greater impact. And so for me, I just had a baby, so I have a 5-month-old and a 7-year-old that's doing virtual school. And so mom, number one priority, how can I be the greatest mom I can be, but also have a freaking amazing business that is able to impact thousands of people's lives, and then use the money we generate to make a greater impact around the world.
Let's go back to being down and out, so to speak. And I don't even know if that's the right way to put it, but I think that most, not all, but most people could relate to that one point or points in their life, or even a point right now where things might have seemed hopeless, or how am I going to make it through? And I don't know, you'll tell me whether it was hopeless or not, but how bleak did it get for you?
It was rough. I'm not gonna lie. We had negative $400 in our checking account. Had to sell the car, sold furniture. We had a brand new baby. I was 80 pounds overweight, and I was just pushing the baby in the stroller, going from pawn shop to pawn shop, trying to sell anything I could in our house. Not gonna lie, it was definitely a struggle. It wasn't. It was not the easiest time in my life.
But you made it, which I know can give so many people hope, and you did it with the resilience of. And I don't know. We'll get into maybe a little bit later your athletic background,
Mm-hmm.
but I do always think that there's something with sports
Oh yeah.
or just activities in general. I mean, like I say this all the time too. My daughter has zero interest in sports as the daughter of a guy that's on TV talking about baseball every single night. But she has that structure from theater and from voice and all that of that I hope one day that she can leverage and rely upon. And so I know that having that sports background. Look, you do not get a college scholarship and play a Division I sport without something deep inside you to go through all those tough times. So how did you find yourself during these tough times at negative $400 to eventually six figures and working less? I mean, time management and all of that too. What was that first step of action? How were you able to do it?
First step of action was taking massive action and figuring out how I could invest in myself to learn the skills that I needed to grow that first business that I had. And so I'm a believer that there's always a way. And a lot of times people will just get stuck in their story of, there's no way out of this, or it's never going to happen for me, or whatever. And I just had this like idea, there's always a way, like I can figure this out. And so there was a program that came out when I was pregnant with my son. So he's 7. I was pregnant with him. It was $450 a month for 6 months, which was like $1 million a month at the time. Like that was so much money. I just remember having this feeling like in my gut, I was meant to do that program. And I remember going to my husband and I was like, had tears. And I'm like, I just think I'm supposed to do this thing. I know it's really expensive. And he believed in me. He's like, go for it. So again, was selling anything I could in the house, sold their TV or Xbox, like anything to come up with the money to pay for it. Went from $20,000 that year to the next year, $80,000 to then $100,000 because of what I learned through that program. Built my Facebook fan page to 50,000 followers back when that was actually important and mattered. Instagram to 20,000, and just learned so much and developed a belief in myself too that, hey, you just need the right strategy and you can make it happen.
Did you have this? I mean, I know that you have really leveraged Pinterest and email lists and really built a massive following. But I'm guessing I might be wrong here that you didn't, like, on day one have this whole thing mapped out, did you?
No, no, it's literally been just like figure it out as you go. I like to say take messy action. And so it's like you try something, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then you try something else and you just kind of figure it out. I didn't know Pinterest was going to be like the thing that really catapulted my business. I had no clue. It wasn't until Facebook and Instagram changed the logarithm back in 2013, 2014 that I knew I had to figure something else out if I wanted to generate leads into my business. So that's when I landed on Pinterest and blogging, and I didn't have a strategy or anything. It was just trying stuff out to see what worked, what didn't, and keep trying.
So I was about to ask you about that phrase, taking messy action, and you beat me to it, but I was going to go there. And here's why, and I'm going to give you a little bit of how it's changed my life a little bit too. Mm-hmm. Because in March, when the pandemic truly hit, right, when it truly shut down so much of what we were doing in the United States, mm-hmm. I, as a baseball announcer who gets paid by the game and was ready for that first check to come the first week of April and the last one having come in early October. And people don't know that. I mean, I think people think, well, they're on TV, they're famous, and they make tons and tons of money. And it's all relative, first of all. But I don't think a lot of people know that many of us work and are paid by the game. And there's no complaint to that. And I've told a lot of people that when I speak to corporations, even not as a way of feel sorry for me, but understand that we're kind of all in the same boat together right now. And so I was freaking out in late March. And one of your clients is my marketing manager, has been for 2 years, a little over 2 years now, Danielle Welsh. And, suddenly it was, I'm speaking's drying up. There's no baseball and there's no income coming in when it was supposed to. And I'm freaking out. And she said to me, you just need to take messy action. And then as I started building up my virtual speeches, that became one of my bullet points. And I would tell people messy action over perfection. And at one point I said to Danielle, I got to credit you for this. And she said, no. This wasn't me. This was my business coach, Rachel Ngom. And so one, I want to thank you for advice that you gave me without even knowing that you gave it to me. And I know people can't see this is an audio podcast, but I don't know the best way to describe the look in your face. There's a lot of joy in your face and almost some humility, I think.
Crying.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to do that. I already recently made a broadcast partner cry on the air over some like beautiful emotional birthday stuff. But all right, where am I going with this? First off, I like to credit people, one, who teach me things, and two, we live in a world where it's okay to steal ideas, but I truly believe it's the journalist in me, I guess, in crediting people. And so I have to tell you that of all the lines that I might deliver in a virtual speech right now about navigating the tough times and pivoting, the number one line that I have had the most feedback on is take messy action. And it's so powerful. And I think, for me, I've always been a perfectionist. And I think most people try to be. And it was very freeing to say, wait a minute. Yeah, of course I want to be perfect, but let's not wait for perfect and let's go. Mm-hmm. How much was that mindset from day one for you? There's a long way of me thanking you and then turning it back to you. But how much was that messy action a key for you when you were digging out of the hole, and how much is it still a part of your life?
Oh my gosh. I just want to say thank you. Like, that touched me so much. You have no idea. Man, that's been everything. I have never known like the answer to anything that I'm doing. It's so funny. Like, when I was building that first business, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just teachable. And so like the coach would be like, all right, do this. I'm like, sure. I didn't know what I was doing. With this business, I hired a business coach to start this one 3 years ago. And whatever she said, I was like, just go fast. Like, it does not have to be perfect. Just go. And it's so funny because we had our team call yesterday or Tuesday, and we're doing something at the end of the month. We're doing it's called Get More Traffic Boot Camp, and it's like a live boot camp. We're going to be running ads to it and training and all this stuff. And our project manager is asking me all these questions, like, do you have the email set up? Do you have this? Do you have this? And I just kind of laughed, and I'm like, being an entrepreneur is just like jumping out of an airplane, and then you put the parachute on, and then you figure it out on the way down. So today it was like, all right, today I need to write the emails and take messy action and get that done. But it's like, you come up with the idea and you just run with it, and then you figure out everything that, like, all the details. Like, the details don't really matter. You just need the idea, you need to have the vision, and you just need to go, and then you figure it out on the way.
It so resonates with me. I mean, when everything shut me down in March, and I was completely freaking out. I'm not a freak out type of guy either. Mm-hmm. I think that when you're on live television every single night, thousands and thousands of times, you learn, in baseball terms, how to hit the curveball. Nothing ever goes as planned. Go back to your sport. I mean, like, you could be in a volleyball match and nothing ever goes the way it's drawn up. Every now and then you get it does, but it doesn't. It's a great lesson for life. Mm-hmm. And so, all I had was my weekly podcast, this podcast that you're on right now. And suddenly it was like, I got nothing else. I'm going to start a daily video podcast. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to do that, but I know how to do TV. And for months, I was doing 5 days a week, just interviewing people, live streaming on video out of a walk-in closet. Like,
let me show you where I am.
Yeah, right. And
I'm in the closet.
So, okay. So we really do have something in common here. The version that we're doing right now is my weekly audio podcast. But, in this day and age we're living in, it's easy to Zoom, and it really helps for me to be able to see Rachel and vice versa. And so I love that. And now I've stepped up into the world. Now I'm in the spare bedroom. But the message that I give everyone, and Rachel, I'm telling you, like, over 100 episodes in on that video podcast, and suddenly, and Danielle always says to me, content. And so at a time where I was out of work, suddenly the content went from once a week to adding the other 5 to 6 times a week. And suddenly people were saying, oh my gosh, you're everywhere. You're the busiest guy in the world. I love what you're doing, this and that. And, and it was like, I didn't know that was going to happen. It was just like, let's go. And so I think that this message of messy action, whether you're down and out or whether you're crushing it, applies every day, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. Like it's never going to be perfect. I have a baby. She's taking a nap right now. Hallelujah. But a lot of times I might show up to do an interview and I'll have a baby like on the boob and I'll just move the camera up like this so I don't flash people. It's just like, it's never, ever, ever going to be perfect. But if you wait for the perfect timing, you're going to miss out on so many opportunities.
I couldn't agree more. And by the way, there's never been a better time to either have the baby on the boob or whatever it is, the dog walking in or the kid running in, your 7-year-old. And it's like, okay, that's just the way it goes, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's the world that we're living in right now. Maybe we should have been before too. I think we were so in search of perfection before that we wouldn't accept just some of the normalcies of life. And so I think this in many ways has grounded us. But let's talk a little bit about how you built it then. And to go from just starting this to 34,000 people per month, or I don't even know what the numbers are at this point, and the email list and Pinterest and online courses. What enabled you to get from there to here?
Yeah. So first business was in the fitness space. So I was building that business for years, still generate passive income from it, which is amazing. I'm so grateful for that. It was 3 years ago. It was probably actually 4 years ago that the company I was with, it was a network marketing company, restructured and my income was cut in half. And to go from making 6 figures, being like the sole earner in the family, to having half of that, all of a sudden, it was another scary time. And that's the thing about entrepreneurship people need to understand. It's not just like you're going to go shoot all up. It's like, it's messy. So after a year of just being frustrated and working harder and not seeing any results, I'm like, I need to figure something else out and go on my own and start my own business and kind of like fly on my own. So I hired a business coach, and that was a crazy, scary investment. It was $2,000 a month to work with her when I was making $4,000 a month. Wow. And I just went all in. And that first year we did $430,000 because of that investment and her coaching. And I was just a good student. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And that's when, everything started. We started this podcast, the She's Making an Impact podcast. We created our Pinterest course, Pin with Purpose, our group coaching program, Activate, and things just took off. And I think a lot of it came from the experience that I had in the first business of building that, plus all the personal development that I've been doing since I was 23, plus having the business coach. It was like just prime time for me to go. And
your fingerprints are everywhere. We start looking online and between the courses and between the podcast and the coach. I mean, you're so involved in so many people's lives, whether you know them or they know you, which is one of the beautiful things of social media, among the many downfalls of, and we can get into a whole thing about what social media has done to society, but I lived in that same space. And, it's amazing the way you can impact people's lives, sometimes without even knowing them. But what's really, really interesting to me, and I have not figured this out yet, is how you have figured out how to maximize your talents, leverage your connections, impact people's lives. But the more you add, you're not adding necessarily hours to working, and you're able to still be a mom. And by the way, you don't have to want to be a mom or a dad or whatever it is. I mean, we all need our time. I struggle with that.
Yeah. How
have you been able to maximize, make the money you're making, impact so many lives, and still have your own freedom?
Oh, I love this question. Big thing is having a team that's there to support you. And so figure out what your zone of genius is, and then see how you can find people to do all the other stuff. And so I'll give an example. In September and probably for the rest of the year, we made a commitment to do a daily Facebook Live every day. And we'll be repurposing that to go on our podcast. We're creating a blog post out of it, putting it on Pinterest, Instagram TV, YouTube, Instagram stories, all the things. I have someone that's researching topics, making sure it's search engine optimized, creating the titles, sending that to me. I go live. I have someone else on our team that creates the event for it, creates the graphics for it. She takes that live video. She then transcribes it. She's creating YouTube video, editing it, uploading it to the podcast, creating a blog post out of it, like all these things. The only thing that I needed to do was basically do maybe a little bit of prep a few minutes beforehand to know I knew what I was talking about, and then show up. So it's basically 20 minutes of my time to be in all these different platforms. So stay in your zone of genius and do the things that only you can do. And then when you think about the things only you can do, ask yourself, how could I do it more effectively? So today, for an example, I'm using something called the daily productivity sheet. And I basically write down like my schedule for the day, what I intend to do that hour, and then did I actually complete it? And so an example between, I think it was 9 and 10 or 10 and 11, one of those hours, my goal was to write emails for our boot camp that's coming up at the end of the month. And so what I did was I left my phone downstairs, I closed out all the browsers, and I had one singular focus. During this hour, I'm going to be in completion and I'm going to write these emails that need to happen. So within that hour, while my baby was napping, I was able to write 7 emails. So we have our entire nurture sequence done. We have invites to go out to our list done. And that just happens when you're laser focused. It's when you hear like dinging on your phone and your Facebook and email open at the same time, like that's just going to take your distraction. And it's going to take forever to get anything done. So be intentional with your time.
So, it's just amazing, this conversation where I can hear and see so much of you and your messaging in what I do with my marketing manager, Danielle, who sometimes has to put her life coach hat on for me, which is a little bit humbling because I'm quite a bit older too. But as a guy that's been in TV for 26 years and kind of went into the business world in my own business with the speaking and the podcasting 3.5 years ago, I had zero experience. Like I just lived in that one lane and it was a great place. So I'm learning every single day. So, I'm writing some of this down for my own notes right now. I mean, it's interesting that what happens to me, and I want to play devil's advocate here in a moment, is that, and I'm guilty. Like, you can see me right now. I grab my phone. I look at this. I'm using that as a prop right now. I'm not actually ignoring you. But I am guilty of that sometimes, right? In a podcast, okay, I'm on the air right now. I can focus on this. But even this morning, I said, okay, look at all this free time I actually have on my calendar today, which, by the way, I shouldn't have stumbled upon. It should have already been set up that way, but I didn't. Yeah. And I've got this window. So for this hour, I just put it on my calendar. I'm going to work on my book for this hour. And from this time, I'm going to answer emails. And from this time, I'm going to work on some speaking contracts. But you just gave me that other idea. Go put the phone away. Mm-hmm. And so my devil's advocate to you, though, is this. This is back to that hitting the curveball or taking messy action.
Yeah.
If the baby wakes up right now, or the baby wakes up while you're working on those emails, do you push everything aside? How do you
I take care of the baby. Of course.
So that was a bad example. Of course, baby first.
Family first, always. And I give myself grace. Grace is one of the biggest things. Yep, grace. And so let's say she woke up and I had to take care of her and I wasn't able to finish those emails and those tasks for the hour. I might look at the rest of the day and say, could I squeeze it in here? Could I squeeze it in here? What about tomorrow? What does tomorrow look like? Because I have the intention of having this done, but because of being a mom, there's going to be things that come up. When it was just my son and he was in school all day, I could get so much done. It was awesome. Yeah. But things are different, right? And so I'll do my best, and that might have to be good enough for today if she wakes up or whatever.
Yeah. And that was a bad example because the baby's always going to take priority. The baby should always take priority. But always. You know what I mean? Like some huge call comes in that absolutely needs your attention right now. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think that's ultimately the answer, right? Give yourself some grace. And then I know for me, if I miss out on working on one of those tasks, sometimes it just gets pushed days down the road. And so I think the lesson probably is, hey, if this was important today, then find a spot for it and allocate. So,
Yep.
Of the many things that you do, is there one, this probably isn't a fair question, but is there one that brings you the most joy or the most excitement?
Ooh, working
Beyond family and kids, of course.
yeah, like in my business, working with
Yeah.
our clients within Activate brings me the most joy. And especially when we get to host our live event that's coming in November, because we're going to be able to host it. Nothing's going to get in the way. It's happening. That brings me the most joy, and seeing them transform and seeing where they started, where they are now, and just having them look at me and say, like, thank you for this. And what you said, like the things I taught Danielle that she's like passing on and teaching other people, that brings me unbelievable amounts of joy. But just working with them closely and getting to see them have success and seeing them transform, that's the best feeling.
When you were growing up and then going through school at the University of Illinois and volleyball career and all that, what were your hopes at that point?
At the University of Illinois, gosh, I actually wrote down a list of goals that it was like goals in life, and it's so funny when I look at it now. But some of my goals were to get my master's, to get married and have babies, to learn how to salsa dance, to live abroad and study abroad. Gosh, I didn't have like monetary goals or anything like that. That wasn't even on my radar. It was mostly like the things that would bring me joy and get me out of my comfort zone. Those are some of the big goals. And I ended up learning how to salsa dance and bachata and merengue. And I ended up teaching it in college too, which was so much fun. Ended up living abroad, working abroad, doing all those things. And I had like a list of baby names on there too. And we named our daughter Gabrielle from one of those names that was on there.
Your husband didn't know what he was getting into, that there was already a name.
No. Well, he got to choose, his family got to choose our son's name, because when we were in Senegal and I got to meet my husband's grandfather, he was blind and mostly deaf. And the first thing he said to me was, you have to promise me to name your firstborn son after me. And not just like his first name, his whole name. So it's Joseph, Jules, Jean-Pierre, Ngom. And I was like, all right. So I didn't get a say in that one, but I'm like, baby number 2, I get to choose.
He is going to have the coolest name of anyone in whatever class he's in, right?
For sure. It doesn't fit on like the social security card or anything. I'm like, sorry, dude.
I'm like, but at least on the back of a jersey, it could just say NGOM, right?
There you go.
Otherwise, you got to get the small writing to get all the different names on there. So
yes,
no, that so cool. So, last thing about your business, and then I want to ask you the baseball themed questions. But for everyone that is on social media, and I tell people all the time too, like it's like, look, if you want to use social media to go have fun and do all that stuff, great. There are obviously a lot of do's and don'ts, but there's so much strategy involved and so many tricks of building that business. Is there a common thread or a theme to how you've been able to grow a list of people, whether it be social media, email lists, that put so much faith in you?
Connection and authenticity. Don't pretend to be perfect. Don't be someone that you're not. Be a real human. Don't be a marketer. Show up, be raw, vulnerable, honest. There's been days I show up, no makeup, hot mess, baby on a boob. I just let them know. Like, I'll write an email and I'll be like, I've been up since 2 a.m. I have a baby on the boob. But as I'm typing this, I use that example a lot. So the guys, I have a mostly female audience. And so they're like, oh, I get it.
Right. I'm not embarrassed. I mean, I'm okay.
Yeah. And I connect with them, like connection is currency, and being authentic. I think that's my superpower of just showing up and being myself, being vulnerable, not trying to be perfect, because I'm definitely not.
I mean, who is, right? But when you were at that negative 400, was the goal survival, or could you envision not this? I mean, obviously this all happened and one step led to the next, but were there grand visions of I want to be or was it just, I got to pay the bills?
Both. So it was like, crap, I need to pay the bills, but I was in network marketing at the time, and they have like the $1 million earners on stage and that kind of thing. So I would see them and I'd be like, there's nothing special about them. So if they could do it, I could do it too. So it was like, I need to figure out how to get our bank account out of the negative, but also I think I could do that thing that they're doing too.
All right, time now for the baseball-themed questions brought to you by Kissick Construction. Trusted team, reliable partner. Check them out at kissickco.com. All right, biggest home run that you have hit professionally?
I would say earning over $1 million in less than 2 years in a new business.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad from -400.
Yeah.
Do you have to pinch yourself at some point? And I don't even mean in a way of the money. I mean, obviously that's, life changes and you have more opportunity if you have that money. That doesn't speak to happiness. I think most of us know that. But you're not making that kind of money without impacting people's lives and being good at what you're doing. So do you have to pinch yourself sometimes to look at what's happened?
I don't think I slow down enough to take the time to look back and celebrate as often as I should. So I need to do that more often because I'm always so like vision driven of we're working towards this. So that's actually a good reminder for me to be like, hey, just maybe today you just like celebrate a little bit. I always think there's so much more I need to do.
Well, that's the athlete in you that it's like, push, 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 push. I'm sure about that. And it might be more than that, but athletes, the good athletes are never satisfied. It's the next game, it's the next match, it's the next off season, it's the next workout. And so, I know that from my career. I was not a good athlete. I just talk about them, but I've spent enough time around. I would challenge you. This is not the Joel gives Rachel advice. I see a lot of pictures on your website of you with a glass of wine or looking like you're toasting something. So you should be celebrating.
I will. Maybe tomorrow. Not on a school night, work night.
Fair enough. Second baseball themed question, biggest swing and miss you have taken and what did you learn from it?
Oh, when I saw this question, I was like, it really made me think because we've like obviously had misses, but nothing that I was like, it's so big, which made me think we're playing too small. That was kind of like a realization. So like we've made so many mistakes. The one that came to my head was we had an evergreen webinar that was converting really, really well and decided to live launch it. And it tanked the sales of that evergreen webinar. So that was a big miss. Spending $15,000 to do a webinar that did not convert, and we spent way too much on ads and not having proper communication with our ads manager of proper expectations of what that was going to look like. Those would be misses, but they're not gigantic in my opinion. So that really made me think, dang, you need to take more risks and play bigger.
That's so interesting. That's the first time I've heard that answer in terms of what the question did for a guest. And so it makes me think a little bit about, one, I believe that every swing and miss is productive if you learn from it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't make that same mistake over and over again. But the other side to that, and we think about this and say it all the time in baseball, is that look, you're going to strike out sometimes. But when you strike out looking at that strike and not swinging the bat, you never gave yourself a chance. So sometimes you got to swing for the fences.
Yep, for sure.
And then the last one is a little bit different than swinging for the fences because you can't always hit the home run, but it's those series of little victories. It's those singles, those bunts. So small ball, my favorite question. What are the little things that add up to the big things in your world?
Ooh, two things that I would say. Having a consistent mindset practice and morning routine would be one, and then consistent content creation. So I shared like our daily Facebook lives that go to the podcast. They're small, like it's literally 20 minutes of my time, and it'd be really easy to say, I'm not going to show up today, or I'm not going to do that, but I made a commitment. So it's happening every day during the week. And those are the small things. They're easy. It's like the compound effect. If you've ever read that book by Darren Hardy, it's the little things that are easy to do. They're easy not to do, but those are the things that make the biggest difference. What
is the morning routine, by the way?
Oh, and I'm so excited because the baby slept like all the way through the night for the first time last night. So I'm like, can get super consistent with this now. Wake up, drink coffee, and now it's pump, but that won't be forever. And then read the Bible, pray, meditate, journal, And if I have time to actually get a workout in, which I did this morning, she slept 10 hours. I was just
I know
like,
you, and I don't know what you're like on the other days. I think, and I sense that you have an amazing energy, whether you are wide awake or not, but you have the look of a mom that had a baby sleep last night.
I did. But here's the thing too, you can create your own energy. So I just attended a leadership conference that was 13-hour days, 14-hour days, and it went to 1 a.m. And then one day it went to 1:45 a.m. Then the baby wakes up at 2:33 and then she's up for the day at 6. And I did that for 3 days and then 4 days. And every day I showed up focused with energy and was able to bring it and give it my all, because you can create your own energy.
I love that. All right, 4 final questions as we round the bases. I have not discussed these with you. I didn't discuss them with myself. I didn't know what they would be.
Okay.
They were a surprise to me. And as we go along, I start to think about them. Actually, I had one in mind. I like to ask this to any former athletes, even though this really isn't a sports show. I just think there's so many lessons to learn from high-level athletes. And you were a Division I volleyball player at the University of Illinois. So it's sort of a two-parter. One, what was the scouting report on you as a volleyball player, and what did you take away from high level sports?
One of the best middle blockers and hitters in the country. I was an All-American. We won the Junior Olympics my senior year, played in China, played in Italy. My superpower was definitely just being able to get the ball to hit the court and finding the kill in really creative ways. I miss it. It was really fun.
I'll bet you do. You can't ever totally recapture that, because that's at a level that, like I always tell athletes, I'm not the only one at the professional level or whatever it is. Like, once you're done, you're done. Doesn't mean you can't play again, but not at that level.
I got injured, and so I got injured my junior year, so I literally am done. Like, haven't played pretty much since. But
what did you take from high level sports into today?
Ooh, so much. Commitment, dedication, having a vision. I remember my coach when I was 16 had us 15 and 16. He had us take quiet time before each match to actually visualize our success. And he was like, all right, visualize yourself making the kill, visualize yourself getting the block. And I remember I'd be doing cardio and I'd be on the bike and I would be exhausted. It would be so hard, the stuff they'd have us do. And I would just have that vision of us winning the Junior Olympics and then standing up on the podium and then putting the gold medal around my neck. And when it happened, it was like the most surreal experience. So just having a vision and being so driven to be committed to making it happen and do whatever it takes to make it happen. We were the most committed, disciplined, hardest working team in the country. So, I mean, that's why we won. We showed up when everyone was too tired or didn't want to.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And that's a lesson in business too, every single day. Second question, I'll ask you about your soon to be home again, Senegal.
Yes.
What is it? And I love asking this question to people that have traveled or been around the world. What is it that you love beyond your husband's roots? What is it that you love about Senegal that maybe the average American who's never been over to Africa would know?
When I'm there, I feel closer to God. I'm way more out of my comfort zone. I experience so much joy and gratitude just in daily life. Things are slower. I always feel welcomed. I've been welcomed. People have invited me into their home to feed me, have me spend the night when they can't feed their children, put like shoes on their kids' feet. It's beautiful. Every day is a new adventure. The people that I meet there are just incredible. I'm consistently out of my comfort zone and experience a ton of variety, speaking multiple languages. It just tests every part of who I am as a person, through going through like no electricity some days or water outages or being stuck in different traffic jams for hours. It just like some of it's hard, but it really helps you grow as a human being.
I'm thinking about a memory of over 20 years ago, almost 25. My brother was in the Peace Corps in Western Africa, West Africa.
Amazing.
Togo. So
Okay.
in between Benin and Ghana. And I visited him for a couple of weeks. The journalist to me, I was like 25 years old, and I brought we didn't have cell phones with cameras on them at that point. I think I brought a video camera, and I actually did like a whole story that I ended up putting on our news just because that's just the way I'm wired. But one of my greatest memories, Rachel, is my last night there. My brother said to me that a family in the neighborhood who brewed some kind of cider type of thing. I don't know. I don't remember what it was called, but I mean, it was potent. It was, you felt pretty good on it quickly. And I wasn't drinking anything like that because I was trying to avoid any of the water and getting sick and all that. And he says to me, you have to have this. He said they put aside what they were selling for the week just for you for free to honor your being here.
Yeah.
And of course I got extremely sick for like 2 weeks and the whole works, but I don't regret it because it was like the most beautiful, selfless thing of this family that made no money, and this was it. And it was more important for them to welcome me. And I think about that in terms of Africa, and I know I'm generalizing, but anyone that I ever talk to, I often will ask a cab driver on the road or an Uber driver where they're from if I hear an accent. And there's that common bond of just taking care of people. And I don't know if that's a generalization, but it's such a beautiful thing.
African countries I've been to: Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Morocco, Egypt, Senegal, South Africa, Zanzibar. There's probably more. Every single country I've been to, the people are all like that. They're very welcoming, very friendly, very generous. Like nothing I've experienced really.
My third question as we round the bases is a little bit of what you just said, and I know we can add in other places like France there. Outside of Senegal, since that'll be your home, favorite place you visited?
Ooh. Can it be a tie between Kenya, Egypt, and Israel?
Yes.
I loved Kenya. I visited almost every city there when I was there. There's so much to experience. It was just incredible. Israel, I was only there for 2 days, but it was incredible. We got baptized in the Jordan River, and it was just beautiful and such an amazing experience. And Egypt is just stunning, and there was so much fun to do in adventures. I got to climb Mount Sinai at sunrise and go karting in the Sahara Desert and go horseback riding around the pyramids. Like, it was so cool.
You've experienced it all, and I know that's not true. There's so much more to experience, and I someone like you that has done everything you've done will always be looking for more. I know that one, and so that's amazing because the journey really is always just beginning, right? There's so much more in the path. So my final question, the walk off to you, and then this one will go right to the heart. I know the little that I know about you, the time that we spend here on this podcast, how big of a heart you have and how much you like helping other people and influencing other people. And so I just want to end with these words of wisdom. I mean, this is a tough time right now for so many people, and it's scary, and pandemic, and the world is changing. And I know that your target audience, not everybody is women, and a lot of them were in your shoes or are in your shoes where you were before. What's that piece of pick-me-up advice for anyone right now that's saying, I need to start fresh here?
I truly believe that there's a purpose for your life, and that even when things are hard, just always look ahead of what's possible, and that if other people have had success in something, that you can do it too. I truly believe everything is figure-outable. If you're committed, you're determined, you're consistent, persistent, you can make big things happen.
I love it. What an inspiration. If anyone wants to get a hold of Rachel, the website is rachelngom.com. The Rachel is spelled the way you think, Rachel, and then it's Ngom. Check out rachelngom.com. And the beauty is, even when she goes off to Senegal to her other home, she'll be accessible. And you can see all the, the newsletters, the lists, the courses, you name it, it's out there. Is that the best way, Rachel?
Yeah. And then if you want to listen to our podcast, it's just the She's Making an Impact podcast. So you can come check us out there too.
We'll get that in the notes. So rachelngom.com, She's Making an Impact podcast. There's a lot of content, a lot of material. I love the conversation. I can't thank you enough for doing this, and congratulations on all the success to come. more importantly, on the family. And having a baby that slept last night, break open that bottle of wine tomorrow night and celebrate a little bit, okay?
Definitely. Thank you so much.
1. Please go to iTunes and give my mommy a 5-star review. Thank you. Yes! I'm so good at this!